Welcome to Illustrated Beards, brought to you by the Fantasy Shop, best in comics and games since 1981. I am Jason. My guest for the evening, as last week, is another guy who's usually on that side of the camera. This is Sherard.
Hey.
He's the sound guy, so I apologize if the sound sucks. That was a slam at the other guy who's doing sound right now, who's standing right next to me, who I won't look at.
No one likes you.
We're going to review some comics tonight. We have chosen Superior Spider-Man number 31, Translucid number 1 from Boom, which might be the first Boom comic we've ever reviewed on the show.
Nice.
And Volume 2 of Saga. We reviewed Volume 1 a few episodes ago. We'll review this one tonight. I will start here with Superior Spider-Man number 31. First off, I just want to get out of the way that I'm very, 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 very sad that Amazing Spider-Man is coming back. I know there's a lot of people out there that are probably very excited because a lot of you just quit reading Spider-Man altogether when Peter Parker was taken over by Otto Octavius. But I thought it was a welcome change to what was kind of a drab series at the time that was just not really that exciting. It was more of the same always. One of the things I hope that happens out of this is that Peter learns from Otto.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, while Otto was in control, he got Peter a doctorate. He's now Dr. Peter Parker. He started his own company, Parker Industries.
Yeah.
He found a way to balance the life of Spider-Man with the life of Peter Parker in a way that Peter never did. So I really, really hope he learns something out of this.
It would be kind of hard not to. I think Octavius has changed his world around him so much.
But seeing Peter take the reins again and seeing Peter be in control, like it felt like the same old thing.
Like we were going back to normal.
Right, like just, oh, well, here we are again, back where we started. I don't know, we'll see. Amazing Spider-Man comes out in a couple weeks. But this was the conclusion of their Goblin Nation story, which was really interesting. Throughout the entirety of the series, this has been like a background thing that they've been setting up. Otto had these little spider robots that he would send around, and they would, you know, keep an eye on everything for him so he wouldn't have to always be Spider-Man. And the Green Goblin remotely hacked the robots and got them to ignore anything with a goblin face.
Ah, that's where the game changer.
So like the whole time, Otto has thought that he's keeping New York safe and he's got all this, you know, he's got everything in line. Secretly, the Goblin has been building this army and this plan to take control of New York City. Okay. And I mean, he succeeds.
Yeah.
I mean, he succeeds enough that in the last issue, you know, Octavius gives the reins back to Peter, eradicating every piece of himself from Peter's brain. And that's where we come in this issue. And I mean, you can see on the cover, he's back in his classic Spider-Man costume. That's actually kind of a funny element to the story. Spider-Man in the last issue, he leaves. He's like, oh, I'll be right back. I gotta go take care of something. And that's when he goes and he gives Peter control. Well, and Peter naturally sheds the Octavius Superior costume and puts on his costume again. He's coming back and all these people, Spider-Man 2099, the Avengers, even Carly. So, like, this is what you did?
Yeah.
You left to go change costumes?
I mean, it was good to see Peter Parker back. I mean, as one of those people who grew up with, you know, Peter Parker being Spider-Man, it was good to have him back. But like you said, it was like everything was going back to normal. And Octavius had done so much, it's kind of hard to go back now, you know.
Right.
I think it would have been smarter to just stick with that formula and keep going.
Agreed. It provided some really good distraction for a little while. And honestly, I mean, the numbers don't lie. It's been Marvel's top-selling book for the last, you know, month, 2 months of its run here. So yeah, I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, it's been well received by the fans. One of the things I'd like to touch on too is, I mean, the Goblin is one of those characters that knows Peter's identity. He knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. There's a funny little moment in here where Peter confronts the Goblin, and the Goblin had figured out that Otto Octavius was the one in Peter's brain. You know, he calls him Otto, so he's kind of giving him crap about it, and he goes through a bunch of stuff, and then he laughs. And Peter comes back with, "Accept the dignity of knowing I never carried a man purse." You see the Goblin stop what he's doing.
His face changes.
His face changes from one of maniacal laughter to one of very serious nature. He just says "you," and Spider-Man responds with "the one and only." Like, and they don't really explain how this happens. They don't need to. I mean, these people have this villain and this hero have fought each other for so long.
They know one another. Yeah.
They know each other so well. And there's a funny little thing that happens with Osborn that we won't talk about here. It's kind of a spoiler, but it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
What they've done with Norman, because it is Norman underneath that Green Goblin costume, although maybe not the way you would think.
Right. One thing I did find interesting, because I haven't been following the series as a whole, but I did find it to be a very solid story from beginning to end. There was a clear, definitive beginning, middle, and end. And then I even appreciated the little epilogue, especially coming in with this issue. There was you can tell that. But for someone who has been following the whole entire series, would you say that this is a satisfying ending?
It is. It definitely brings all the pieces together very well. This goblin story they've been building in the background forever comes to a head all right here in this, the last issue, and then in this issue in particular. So yeah, I mean, I'd say it's a good conclusion. It doesn't change the fact that I'm upset that it's going away.
Yeah.
All the trades are available. It's a fine story. It will go down in history as one of those definitive Spider-Man stories that everyone should read. So yeah, I mean, Superior Spider-Man number 31. If you've been following it, check it out. It's on the shelf now from Marvel.
All right.
And Translucid, number 1.
From Boom Studios?
Yeah.
Yeah. What can we say about this story? My gosh. It starts off with a kid just hanging out in his room, and then it just takes a left turn into just weird. We got characters who just recently got out of a mental correctional facility, and he wears a horse head.
The horse,
and that's the character's name. And apparently he has this plot to blow up the Empire State Building. And this is literally all we know. And there is a hero called the Navigator, who is apparently the Batman of this relationship.
The hero-villain codependency that they have is really the central theming of the story, which, again, that's all well and good. The book does nothing to set up this world. The book does nothing to explain to you the pitfalls of the characters. It really doesn't feel like issue 1 of a book.
It isn't. It isn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. It's got some really good art. The colors that they use are really amazing. But it's a weird, confusing tale because there's a little kid. At least from my perspective, it's kind of implied that he's the hero.
I would go as far to say that it's implied that he is the catalyst of this being the personification of his imagination.
But it does little to, it does nothing to explain that relationship. He's drawing this crazy robot, he's designing what would be a cool utility belt, and then we see the hero using these things that he's designing. And the way they transition those panels, from the kid's perspective to the hero's perspective, really implied to me that the kid was the hero, that this is the kid in the past preparing for his life as a superhero in the future. But again, I could be wrong. Could be all in his imagination.
It's really early to tell where
in
they're
any
going
case,
with this.
I'm intrigued. I will come back and read issue 2 now. If only just to gain some context.
I would say wait for it to kind of get its footing, because I mean, you could catch up on all of
Superior
Spider-Man and kind of hold off and wait for that to get its footing and then come back.
Sure. I mean, it's only a 6-issue miniseries. I feel like if I'm the person who's writing this, knowing there's a finite amount of time in order to get this story told, issue 2, at the very least issue 3, has to set up the relationship between this kid's life and the hero and the villain's life. Otherwise, you wait till the end to hit us all with it, and everyone's just going to not be interested because it's going to be so confusing along the way.
The next one's going to have to start with that. It's going to have to, because by issue 3 you're going to be halfway in and the ending's going to be rushed.
In any case, it's a very strange but intriguing story. The story is called Translucid. It is from Boom Studios. First time we've ever reviewed a Boom Studios comic on the show, thanks to Sherard over here. So,
boom.
Yeah, Sherard says to wait. I say check it out. You make the call. And the trade we have chosen is Saga, Volume 2.
Yes.
If you're fans of the show and you watch the show, you remember we reviewed Saga Volume 1 and you heard Mike Brodeur really down this story and really say that he's only sticking with it because Brian K. Vaughan is writing it.
Like, with the exception of the destruction of Alderaan, well, what did the Empire do? They're not villains. A bunch of savage, hippie people coming to the man who's had all this great technology and all this brilliant science, and all he wants to do is bring a little cleanliness, a little order to the universe, and these whiny hippies get all pissed off and start doing terrorist activity. Brian Vaughan's a genius. Absolutely genius. Why the Last Man is one of the best things I've ever read. I loved Ex Machina. I think he's a brilliant, brilliant writer. But this is it's sadly overrated. It's just not interesting. It's just not that good. The writing, the plot,
If your feeling of it was that it was just not that good, what made you come back and read Trade 2?
Brian K. Vaughan. That's why I went back to Raid 2. And you know why I'm going to read Trade 3? Brian K. Vaughan. I'm going to hold out hope. I'm going to give the man his respect that he deserves. He has so much credibility built up for years of fandom from me that this inane, trite, uninteresting Star Wars Romeo Juliet smash up, I'm going to give it a whirl.
Cool. You're not going to hear that from me, and you didn't in that episode. While I respect your point of view that this story blows, I enjoy it quite immensely. I'm pretty sure you're not going to hear that from Sherard either.
No.
We actually really like this story. We enjoy it quite a bit. I think I was the one who actually turned you on to this story.
Yeah, I was just coming off of Why the Last Man,
Right.
and you said, hey, Brian K. Vaughan's also doing this, and I was like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot. And it is very, very interesting.
We talked earlier about how, you know, when Brian K. Vaughan writes a story, the world that he presents us with is almost the main character within that story. It's very much true of Why the Last Man, and it's absolutely 100% true of Saga.
Yeah.
You made the comment that it's almost like he creates the world and then the characters to
Yeah.
put into it. And there are other writers that have done that. You know, I mean, people I've said on the show before, Scott Snyder did that with Gotham City. Gotham is absolutely a character in the story. But, you know, with Saga, it's such a confusing world, and there's all these weird creatures. There's no context for them. I mean, it's just this, here's a little guy that looks like a bunny, and here's a guy with a TV for a head. It's very much a world that's already going on and has a history that
Yeah.
we're not really aware of.
Definitely, definitely. And they give you what little you need to know, that basically you have these two opposing factions, and they're going to war, and that's the foundation of, I guess you could say, the chaos or the thing that moves the story forward.
Sure. So this moves the story forward. Our main characters are still on the run, that have been hired by their respective families to destroy the baby that they believe is an abomination. We start to see some of these antagonists developed a little more during this chapter, and I liked
Very
that.
much so. The Will.
The Will, Lion Cat. I love the Lion Cat. The Lion
That's-
Cat is fantastic.
He only says one thing.
Lying.
Lying, that's it. That's great.
And I was really surprised by that, actually. You know, getting to know some of the antagonists is not something that usually happens in comic stories. I mean, they are the antagonist, and there's really no, I mean, you know, the Joker is the Joker.
Right, yeah.
We don't need to know who he was before. We know who he is now.
It's more of an ensemble
Yeah.
story. You have different stories that we jump back and forth through, and that's, I think, all we're going to get out of Saga.
And you get the growing of this relationship. The relationship of just one of the bounty hunters in particular.
Gwendolyn.
Gwendolyn.
Gwendolyn. Yeah, his ex.
Yeah. And so the development of their relationship is something I wasn't even expecting. You know, it's intriguing to me to have development of characters that really the purpose they serve in the story is pushing the protagonist forward. One of my favorite characters that they introduced us to in this part of the story was the writer. I can't remember his name either. I have a hard time keeping track of the characters' names. What the hell was his name? Oswald. Oswald.
Okay.
This
Oswald.
cyclopean guy is a writer in this world. He writes romance novels?
Romance fiction novels, yeah.
Yeah, romance fiction novels?
That the one of the main characters.
Oh, God! Don't do this to me, Sherard.
Oh, this is awful.
I know! Alana.
Alana?
No. I mean, the fact that we are sitting here forgetting Marco and Alana, the parents
Yeah.
of the baby who's narrating the story, who's moving the story forward. The fact that we're sitting here forgetting their names, I don't know, like, I usually have a very good memory for these kinds of things, so
Well,
it
yeah.
might just mean that the characters don't impact us as much as the world does.
I don't think any of them are strong. They're people fumbling through this world that has been created for them to exist in. Like, again, I'll reiterate, I think that's all we're going to get out of this. Does that mean that we will see a crappy story? I don't know. We might end up getting a beautiful romantic story out of this.
When I reviewed Volume 1 with Mike, I mean, Mike had a lot of interesting points to make, and that provided the conversation that we were having.
As far as comic fans go, it's somehow the most brilliant thing ever written, and it's not. It's Romeo and Juliet in space with high technology and magic and the most vile, unrepentant, gratuitous sexual content out of any book.
I will say it again. They've not moved the plot forward in probably 7 or 8 issues, which is kind of sad to see that you know, something so good and something that captured people right away can just kind of lull even 12 issues in. We can have this kind of a lull.
Right, because there's no there.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet, they love each other. They have a baby. Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Sitting here talking with someone who enjoys the book, though, and the fact that I can't remember the characters' names might mean maybe Mike was a little right about the fact that this is not the best story that Brian K. Vaughan...
I'm of the opinion that you should read Y the Last Man and you should buy a Fiona Staples art book.
Like, I'm literally in front of you here rethinking my love of this book. I can't really describe what's going on in my head right now.
You need some time to think it over. It's cool.
I'm kind of rethinking that. I'm thinking maybe Mike was right about this.
This is still volume 2, correct?
Yeah.
The third one's out, and they still haven't quite set any framework for any type of direction that they're heading. So it's still up in the air.
I feel like that might be. I feel like by 18 issues we should have that, though.
Yeah, we should.
Like, there should be a solid framework.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm interested in the baby story because clearly throughout the entirety, I mean, this is not something they've changed.
Yeah.
Hazel is narrating the story from a future timeline.
Exactly.
We're watching the development of this child. You know, like recently I was talking about in the story, she started walking for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm starting to understand my own thought process a little more here about this book, I'm thinking that the reason it's not been as compelling and these characters not as compelling is because these characters are kind of meaningless. Hazel is the character.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
I can remember her name.
Yeah.
We were all told at the very beginning of this that eventually we were going to get to a moment where Hazel was the main character.
Yeah.
And we're watching her story move forward from there.
And puberty is clearly several years away from right now.
I mean, they've very slowly aged this baby. I mean, I thought there would be some more jumping around throughout the timeline. So, I don't know. I mean, I do think it's a good story. I'm starting to reevaluate why, though. Why I think it's a good story. I might have to go back and reread this. Like, I think that's what this conversation has prompted me to do. I need to reread this. But like it, don't like it.
It's definitely worth a shot.
It's definitely worth taking a look at.
Yeah.
I agree with what Mike said. I agree with what we're saying here. Doesn't matter. It's Brian K. Vaughan, and that's one thing that we agreed on when I was reviewing this before. The man deserves a look.
Yeah.
Every time he writes, he deserves a look. So, Saga, Volume 2, Sherard mentioned they are up to Volume 3. You've got plenty of story to catch up on. So, Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples, Saga, check it out. And that brings us to the end. Special thanks to Sherard for sitting in on this side of the camera today and being a part of the show. So, we're going to take a little break. We're going to rework some things, and we're going to come back at you with some more reviews next season. So, until then, keep reading, keep coming into the store, and we'll see you next week.
We'll go back to that side now. Is that cool?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Damn it!